Hey guys, WaifuGate here. So today we're going to be doing something a little different. I used to have a series called Tips and Tricks that I did an update on every Tuesday, but I ended up cutting it because it felt like I was forcing content, like, oh, what can I cover this week for tips and tricks? Like now I just do it whenever and it'll pop up. So today we're going to be going over something that one of my viewers wanted me to make a video on because they felt like it was really important to cover, and I agree with them. That's why we're here. All right. So this will teach you how to calculate which lands you need in your deck. Basically, it's a website called MTG on Curve, and we're going to jump into the details in just a second. So if you guys are struggling with mana and like casting stuff and not knowing, what mana to include or what's important, this video will help you out immensely. All right. And on top of that, to top it all off, we got an MTGA code to give away again. This is for an individual card reward. The details on that are going to be in the details below the video. So I'll just let that kind of speak for itself. So that being said, we're going to jump into the content now. All right, so let's dig into the video. So this is the website here, MTG on Curve. I'll have a link for this down at the bottom so you guys can, copy paste that. It's pretty easy to find either way. And basically what this list does is it allows you to paste a list from MTG Arena, from MTGO, wherever it is. You can control paste a list into here and see how castable your cards are, the mana symbols, all of that stuff. So I'm going to take my newest list, my Esper Yorion list here, and we're going to plug that into the list. And we'll kind of see what's up with that. So export here. If you're doing MTG Arena, which is usually most of my content, we go to MTG on Curve, which I'll have the link for you. And then you just control and then V to paste it. Okay. Or you can right click paste too. And the shortcut's there for you as well. So now this gives you a percentage chance on what you can cast on Curve. This assumes that you are going to hit your land drops each turn. Okay. That's how it works. And then it calculates based on the symbols that you have for your lands. So here we have, these types of symbols here, which are from the triomes. So it shows that we have 4 red sources, etc., from the triomes here, and we have 2 for forest. Those aren't necessarily good for Esper. We have an Esper list here, but that's sort of getting into the details of this deck specifically. What's important are the 20 symbols here, 24, 22, and then 1 colorless for Blast Zone. So we've got a 93% chance to cast Remorse on Curve, 96 for Omen, 96 for Tail's End, and this is sorted from lowest CMC until highest is what's going by. And I think it's alphabetical order after the mana symbols, like the total mana cost, and then it's alphabetical. We got Narset at 3, Oath here. So Narset you can see is a little sketchy. Like we might not be able to cast Narset on Curve. When I was doing the deck, when I was thinking about this and locking in the final cards for it, or what's considered the final cards for it, like I'm probably going to tweak the list more and more as I play it, I didn't care if I couldn't cast the Narset on Curve. Right? Like that's okay. It's kind of a late game card against Krasis. I don't need to slam this on 3, so that's okay. And I'm okay with that. And, even at 88%, that's not the worst. Like, we can probably cast that on 3, 4, 5 pretty easily. Maybe on 5 with a veto backup or something post-sideboarding, etc. Like, I've considered that. And then we've got 93 on Oath, 96, 97, 74 on Gadwick. Once again, don't care because I'm not casting this guy on 3. I want to cast them on like 5 or 6 when I know that it's safe after my opponent's tapped out for Elspeth Conquers Death, and I'm digging for an answer for that. This is a late game card, is not an on-curve card. Against aggro, I probably cut this guy, you know what I mean? So it doesn't matter if I can't cast him on curve. Like, you just have to think about what this means to you in regards to castability. For example, if you have D-Spark as another good one, 2 mana symbols, black-white, might be a little hard, might be a 70 or 80% in this list, right? But, coming from the sideboard, we can even check that. So that's another thing you can do. So we can go X, Control, cut this, and we can just add this to the list and take out 2 other cards that we don't care about. So for example, 2 of the Remorses. Now we can see how D-Spark does, 88%. Don't care because I don't need to cast that on 2. I need to cast that like past turn 4, right? When my opponent casts a Nissa. So this number doesn't matter to me. So just think about what the number means, and if it matters to you at that point in the game to cast it on curve. Assassin's Trophy, another good example, okay? Like, you don't have to cast that on curve. Maybe you do, but like, probably not, right? You don't want to ramp your opponent early. You want to save that for like maybe a Field of the Dead if you're in Historic, etc., or like a Nissa for a 2-mana answer if you're on Elves, etc. Elves are a Historic deck traditionally right now, so another example. So Shatter's at 90, so I look at my board wipes when I'm playing Control. Teferi, Ashiok's like almost guaranteed. Elspeth's almost guaranteed, almost guaranteed. Anything like 95 and above is crazy good. Like, that's awesome. The only 100% is like Eugene here. Shark Typhoon is also a 99.96. That's almost guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed in Magic, by the way. You can draw 13 lands in a row. You can draw 13 non-lands in a row. You can draw all 3 copies of your Teferi, all 4 copies of your Teferi in the top 10 cards if you're a Yorion list. That's possible in Magic, okay? But this gives you a rough idea of what could happen based on the math, okay? That's what this site is for. I used to just use the deck or the exclamation point lands command in my stream, which pops us out to this, which is like you count your sources yourself and then you add them up and such. And like let's say this is Teferi, right? We want to check out our castability for Teferi. So 2 colorless, right? Like if we look at Teferi, that's what this site's for. So Teferi is double blue, 2 colorless, right? And then we have to manually count the lands, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 sources. Okay, now I have 24 sources. Now I have to look for 24 here. And this is telling me I have a 100% chance to calculate it, to cast it on curve potentially, right? And this is with the old rule. Now this gives us a more accurate feedback on that. So Teferi Master of Time is 94%, not 100. So this is actually, if this site is on point, then Frank Karsten's old how many sources 60 cards PNG, oh, this is for 60 cards as well. So that's going to mess with it too because we have an 80 card pile. So it's even more important to use this if you're on a Yorion list because this site is now outdated, or this this PNG is now outdated actually. So this is just easier, you know, how much time that took me compared to just pasting it. You know, if this is accurate, then it's awesome. And I've been using this, and it just feels really good to get a gist of, you know, what type of symbols you need for your deck, and then you can adjust. Because before on my calculations for this, I had like less triomes, I had fabled passages, and we can kind of mess with that right now. Like we can go down to like, you know, 2 triomes. We can jam in like, you know, fabled passage, etc., and see how that impacts it, you know. And you can copy links here if you need to share this with someone else, etc. If you want to show someone the site and how it works, it's very nice to have that link. But you can just basically min-max your mana just by trial and error. Also just by paying attention to the bottom here. This is the most important part of this. If you notice that you can't cast Narset, for example, you can be like, oh, double blue, that's going to be rough. How many blue sources do I have? 22. Oof, that's going to be a really heavy commitment if I'm already at 22 and I want this number to be better. Is that worth it? And you can start thinking about that and asking yourself questions and seeing if, you know, that card is worth it or if the other card might be worth it. For me, for this deck in general, like to give you another example of what I changed about this list, Thought Erasure was like an 86% chance even after my changes on mana. I was like, well, I really want to be able to Thought Erasure on 2 so I can grab that Teferi from their hand so that some of my other cards aren't super dead, or it's not frustrating to play against, you know, the control player, being able to grab that Wilderness before they can dispute me, etc. Also, Remorse, better against Dispute because it's a black card. We got to think about that in deck construction, right? When we go to make lists, very important. So being able to have this at 94, 96%, this isn't like true anymore, right? Like I can do this and, oh, that's D-Spark, whoops. Yeah. So if I export my list again, I goofed. It's fine. It's because I was showing off the dspark type deal and giving an example there. So if we go here, whoops, here, boom. So now this is 93% instead of 86. Like if I type in thought erasure, check this out. Can I just type that in or no? Or thought will it work? Yeah, it knows what thought erasure is. Cool. So 98%, right? Compared to 93 or 94. Those percentages seem small, but over the course of like, 100, 1,000 games, if you're playing that much in one list, props to you. Awesome job. That's when you'll see the difference here and there, is through the course of a lot of games. But yeah, Remorse being way more castable is just nice. Pretty much it. All right, so hopefully that wraps things up and you kind of can understand a little bit more about how to calculate which lands you need in your deck, how to go about it, and different reasons, like in different steps you can take as you're using the site, so it's not just like you plugging in the numbers and doing it mindlessly. Like that way you know what it means, like, when dspark is uncastable or whatever else. Like hopefully I covered all the holes and whatnot, so we're not missing any information for that. So a site is helpful and it's not going to hurt you in any way. Because sometimes you're handed a tool and you just kind of use it without thinking. You're just like, oh yeah, this, I'll just do this. You need to know what this is, you know what I mean? At least for me, that's what I like to do. I like to try to digest the information and make sure that everything is in line and I understand what I am consuming. Something I struggled with for a really long time, but I think I'm getting better about it nowadays. Anyway, there'll be an end screen here. You can click subscribe if you like the video. It really helps the channel. And there'll be another video if you want to check out some more content too. And if you guys have any questions, any concerns, you can drop them in the comments below. Or you can drop by my stream, usually stream from 2 p.m. CST until about 8 p.m. CST Central Standard Time. And I appreciate you guys checking out the video. See you guys next time.